So let's settle into our meditation and start with, I'll use the same mantra or guidance, the three words that I use a lot to guide myself in meditation or a sitting stillness practice. The three elements are ground, sound, and breath. They're each always here, and they're each present for us as gentle tethers for our attention when we sit. I find it very, very useful to touch base with ground first. And actually, before we get completely still, whether you're lying down or sitting, join me for a few breaths of movement with our arms extending from our bodies. So with your inhale, let your arms reach forward in front of the body and upward. Pause there, and then with the exhale, let your arms come down. And in the pause there at the end of the exhale, especially just note the feeling of ground, the body, the ground underneath. With the inhale, the arms lifting up, and pause at the top, feeling the verticality in this connection to what's above us and what's below us. And the next time your arms come down with the exhale, just let your hands rest on your legs. And as you're breathing, another one of our gentle tethers, as you're breathing. So the body is quite still, but the breath is moving. As you're breathing, notice the base of your body, any of the parts that are touching the ground. The feet. Perhaps parts of your shins or knees or calves if you're lying down. The way any part of your thighs, your upper legs, and pelvis feel the presence of ground underneath you. The ground as carpet, as blanket, as yoga mat, as cushion, as yoga block. And while this ground seems to be something other than ourself, we share many qualities, and there's a solidness in our own bodies that's akin to the solidness of the planet Earth that's supporting us underneath. As you begin to fold in awareness of your breath. So again, we're fairly still. In our position, our posture. And part of what we're doing when we're sitting, when we're meditating, is to take care of the posture. So we might notice that the breath is helping us sense that verticality of our body. If you're sitting, it's is vertical. If you're lying down, it's another orientation, but the length is there, the tail to crown length. And the connection of it all, the tail, the sacrum, the 25 vertebra, the head. This vital core part of us. As you lightly note your breath, allowing it to be just free, just free. And so when we do bring our attention to the breath, you may begin to sense, it may highlight by attending to that breeze of the breath that touches the body as it comes in, as it leaves us. It brings light to it, highlights what you're sensing inside, the spaces, the textures of those spaces, the sequential openings and shifts. And I invite you especially, this is a little different for us yoga practitioners, especially as you sense the pelvis, the pelvic floor, the deep belly, the low back, the hip area, this lower dantian part of the body. On your exhale, allow a softening of this, almost as if you're allowing this part of you to soften and even settle with gravity in the downward direction toward the earth a little bit more. This is in contrast to that idea of the exhale drawing the belly in. That can be true as well. But this softening of the lower belly, very gently. It's a little different pattern. It may connect you with a little deeper feeling of groundedness. And now sound, ground, breath, sound. Maybe even if you're in a room with windows closed, you may not be able to keep out the sound of the insistent birds. The listening, the sound is a wonderful tool for connecting and giving us the contiguity of outside and inside. So please feel free to return to any of these pointers, these tethers of ground, breath, and sound. If you start to feel yourself getting lost as we move into some longer silences. Lost or distracted. And you might note on the point of distraction, just for yourself, for you, what is your purpose for showing up here together today? Your intention which a teacher of mine has woken me up to this idea of, can we hold our intention as we meditate without tension? And just lightly identify what is of value here, what is of value here in this practice for you now. So the sound element of this trio is also code for all that we're sensing. Our senses, our perception, receiving, our hearts. Let's include our hearts, our perceptions, our intuition, all receptive here to the ground, to the breath, to the birds, to our intent. But also to other forms that might include a particular uncomfortability in the body. It might include a habitual thought pattern, such as one of mine is planning, rehearsing, planning, rehearsing. It might include a concern for someone you love. It might include a concern for what's in our future. Some of these guests may be very easy to allow to float by, like the metaphor of the cloud and the vast blue sky. May be very easy to be non-reactive. Others will draw us into a mind storm. And I would like to invite you to entertain that when you notice that you're in the mind storm, you're in the whirling pattern, you're in the pain of your low back, you're in whatever grips you a little more fully. This is sort of the confusing thing about meditation, that the aim is to let the mind settle. But it's natural for the mind to show us things. So that moment that you notice, can you also notice your own reaction? And if it's one of self-abnegation or punishing or criticizing, this a moment of awakening. What I'm inviting you to is building on a theme Dina introduced in her class yesterday, I believe it was, just yesterday. The yogis teaching us to, when we are in a difficult state or difficult thought pattern, or suffering thought pattern, or other negative state, that we can cultivate the opposite. It's already present. We notice ourselves perhaps expressing something to ourselves unkindly, not helpfully. And we can become open to how even this that was brought to me, this pattern of thinking, this painful pattern of thinking, it delivered me right to a moment of awakening, to noticing. So these gentle beams of our attention at the body, at the ground, at our breath. Gentle and light touch so that we are available to be open to the vastness of ourselves. To the boundless awareness that holds the itch at the side of my nose, and yet also shows that that's a very, very, very small part of my wholeness. That also in this vast capacity is the breath that's delivering me life and love every moment. As simple presence, as the bird song, as the certainty of the seat beneath me. As you breathe in, sensing perhaps that this breath is part of the stream of life, the wholeness of each of us and all of us together. Let yourself gently note what you are being given now, or perhaps recently, or in your life, what gifts you have gratitude for. Let yourself note, even name some of those things that may be, the capacity to be on the internet together, the availability of good food, the freedom to move our bodies, the kindness of somebody in your life. Like that. receiving, noting the kindnesses that have come to you, that are coming to you. And now let's keep the same theme, but turn it around so that now feel your capacity for well wishes, kindness, or compassion. It does not require any action or worry, but simply a holding of this heart space and intention of well wishes. Perhaps I'll give some examples. I'll let you find your own. For all those on the front lines of working with this pandemic, including the scientists and the civil servants who are communicating with us and each other. May they know that they have the capacity to do what they need to do. And list others that you may, other beings or other situations that you may also hold this compassionate heart space for. Wishing them the wellness, the strength, the freedom, the knowing of their own resources. And then let's come back for just one more minute together of silence, of simply being present and grounded, alive. Let's take a deep breath together, several deep breaths together. And bring right and left palm together in front of your heart. And bow together to each other and to ourselves, to all beings everywhere.